Okay, so for this video, we're looking at solving absolute value inequalities. Your learning target is that you will be able to solve absolute value inequalities. And your core concept is showing you, similar to when you had absolute value equations, how you have to make two equations. When you solve absolute value inequalities, you have to make two inequalities. And when you make your second inequality, you flip the inequality symbol and change the sign of the number. Example 1 is solving absolute value inequalities. However, all of these are going to be less than. And when you are solving a less than inequality, it makes an and compound graph. So I'm going to write less than to help you remember that it's going to be an and. So we have x plus, the absolute value of x plus 3 is less than or equal to 2. So we need to make our two inequalities. So both of them are going to start with this x plus 3, what's inside the absolute value. The first one, we're just going to copy everything after exactly as it is, less than or equal to 2. Then for the second one, we have the x plus 3, so what's inside the absolute value, exactly as it is. And then we're going to flip this inequality symbol and change the sign of this 2. So now we're going to have is greater than or equal to negative 2. So now we're going to go ahead and solve for x in both of these. So I'm going to subtract the 3 from both sides. So we have x is less than or equal to 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And then over here, I'm going to subtract the 3 from both sides. Bring down my x. My 3's cancel, is greater than or equal to negative 2 minus 3, which is negative 5. So again, this is an and. So when we have ands, we want to write our answer together. So the x goes in the middle. My inequalities are always going to point to the left. The smaller number of these 2's go on the left. So the smaller number of these is negative 5, and that has an equal to. And the larger number is negative 1, and that also has an equal to. So this is our answer. And then we need to make our graph. So here's my negative 5, my negative 1. Both are going to have close points because they're equal to. And this is an and, so they are going to shade together. So here is our graph. So let's look at the other one. The absolute value of 3c minus 5 is less than negative 2. So remember, an absolute value is distance from 0. And a distance is always going to be positive. So this value is positive. Is a positive ever going to be less than negative 2? No. So your answer here is no solution. And there's no shading on your graph because there's no solution here. So example 2 is still solving our absolute value inequalities, but these now have the greater symbol. And so a greater is going to give you an or. So over here, I'm going to write great or to help you remember, and ors shade apart. So the process here is still the same. We still need to make our two inequalities. So we start with what's inside the absolute value, copying down exactly what we see after that, so greater than or equal to 3. Then again, start with what's inside your absolute value. We're going to flip the symbol and change this sign. So now we're going to have is less than or equal to negative 3. So now we're going to work on solving for x in both of these. So I subtract the 1 over. So we have x, the 1's cancel, is greater than or equal to 3 minus 1 is 2. Over here, we're going to subtract the 1 over. So we have x, these cancel, is less than or equal to negative 4. And again, this is an or, so we need to have an or in our answer. So we have x is greater than or equal to 2, or x is less than or equal to negative 4. So we are going to make our graph. Here's my negative 4. Here's my 2. Negative 4 has a closed point because it's equal to. 2 has a closed point because it's equal to. And this is an or, and ors shade apart. So here is our graph. So now for our other one, we have the absolute value of 12 plus w is greater than or equal to negative 5. So again, absolute value is distance from 0. Distance is always going to be positive. So we have a positive value that's going to be greater than or equal to negative 5. Any positive number is going to be greater than negative 5. So your answer here is all real numbers. And you're going to write out that whole phrase. And this time for your graph, everything gets shaded. So when it was no solution, you don't have any shading. And when it's all real numbers, everything is shaded.